Cannondale has a brand new gravel race bike with a cyclocross race bike name. The all-new SuperX has an integrated cockpit, internal routing, and 48 millimeters of tire clearance. Gone are the separate SuperX Evo models for gravel and cyclocross, and in is one model for both that comes in sizes 46 to 61 centimeters. Out is AI. No, not the AI that served you this video, but Cannondale's asymmetric integration that had the weird rear dishing. Still here though is Cannondale's Delta Steer, the triangular steer tube that allows for the internal routing. In this video, I talk with former Paris-Roubaix winner Alison Jackson about her experience racing the SuperX at the 2024 Gravel World Championships. I ask her how it compares to her other race bikes, including those that she rides at Paris-Roubaix. I ask her, hey, which is a rougher surface? Cobbles at Roubaix or gravel? What do you think she says? This video is sponsored by the Gravel Adventure Field Guide, and I'll talk to the guys behind the guides later on this video. But for now, please take a second to subscribe. That helps me out. Now sit back and enjoy the details and the comparisons to other gravel bikes of the Cannondale SuperX. Let's talk numbers, model numbers, prices, weights, and geometry. The bikes start at $4,500 for the SuperX 3, a GRX 2x design with GRX 820 and full internal routing. Jumps up to just shy of $7 grand for the GRX Di2 2x version with reserve GR 40 wheels. And that goes all the way up through the LAB71 with SRAM's new Red Explorer group, a cool $15,000 for that bad boy. It's nice to see GRX and 2x options on bikes. My last video I was lamenting the relative absence of 2x on new gravel bikes. If you want to watch my video on the 12-speed GRX Di2, you can click up there. As far as the Red Explorer, that's a fantastic group also. $15K for a whole bike. Welcome to 2025, people. If you want to view my review on that, you can take a peek up there for the group itself, which is really good. Definitely the best braking I've ever experienced on a drop bar group from SRAM, and I really like the feel of the hoods. And there's some new stuff with the gearing, including the 13-speed. As far as pricing, I just have the US spec and the dollar amount, so I apologize to everyone else. I realize most of you are watching from outside the US. Sorry, this is the information I have at this point. So what's the difference in the outgoing SuperX Evo and the incoming SuperX? How many times have you heard lighter, faster, lighter, faster, lighter, faster? Well, you're gonna hear it one more time because yes, Cannondale claims they made this bike lighter and faster in terms of aerodynamics, but also a little bit comfier. The claimed frame weight on the LAB71 frame is sub 900 grams. The other complete bikes come with a frame that's in the 1,000 gram mark. That's about 2.2 pounds. So lighter means less material. Faster means skinnier front profiles mostly, and thus the all internal routing. Comfier means a bit more give, right? Some of that is due to the rear triangle design having some flex engineered into it vertically, and some of it just comes from a good old-fashioned D-shaped C-post, like you'll see on one of my favorite gravel bikes, the Giant Revolt. Now let's talk comparative weights. I don't yet have a bike or a frame to put on the scale, but again, the claimed frame weight of the LAB71 frame is under 900 grams. In terms of comparative weights, sub 900 grams is light, but not the lightest. That title goes to the Specialized S-Works Crux at 725 grams. Another competitor in the gravel race category, the Trek Checkmate, a new bike, that is just over 1,220 grams. That has the ISO speed decoupler in the middle, so a bit more complexity going on there and a bit more weight. In terms of tire clearance, this comes with a claimed 51 up front, 48 in the back. How many 51 millimeter tires and how many 48 millimeter tires are out there? Not so many. But so you're looking roughly at a 45 or a 47 in the rear and a 50 up front. Those measurements account for 4 mil of clearance on either side, and I would absolutely encourage you not to push that, just because if and when you do get mud jammed in there, you've got a good chance of taking the paint off. That can happen in the best of circumstances with the allotted clearance, but it's more likely to happen if you're trying to squeeze in more than the manufacturers say. So again, those numbers are 51 at the fork and 48 in the rear triangle. Compare that to the Crux at a 47 front and rear and the Checkmates at 45. Now these are comparisons for other so-called fast gravel bikes or race gravel bikes, as opposed to gravel adventure bikes, which have slacker geo and a lot more tire clearance. And yes, I can hear you, Dylan Johnson's fans, saying, hey, huge tire clearance should be on gravel race bikes, but just comparing what we've got out there from the big players right now for this particular category. In terms of geo and handling, Cannondale is saying you can have your cake and eat it too, in terms of stable yet snappy geo. Let's look at some numbers there. This bike comes with a 71-degree head tube, 55 millimeters of rake, and 65 millimeters of trail. If you're asking what the heck are rake and trail, please check out the portion of that video above where I talk about those and have some crude diagrams so you can see the relationship between head tube angle and fork rake and trail. Most gravel bikes are in the 70 to 72 degree head angle. For instance, the Mondraker Arid that I recently reviewed is 70 degrees. The Specialized Crux, a racier, snappier bike, is 72 degrees. This guy is 71. In terms of trail, the Arid is at 79, whereas the Crux is 64, and this bike is 65. On the super slackiest end of gravel bikes I've ever ridden, the evil Chamois Hagar with a 66.6 head tube has a claim trail of like 93 millimeters, and that you can feel the wheel flopping over when you're riding very slowly. So this is nowhere near that crazy, but what they're going for is, as I said, a best of both worlds. How does that translate to your actual experience? I don't know. I'm eager to get on one of these bikes and check that out. Pretty standard reach on this bike. Stack is a racy low 57.5 for a size 56. So by the numbers, it's pretty close to another bicycle that started out life as a cyclocross race bike and is now a gravel race bike, that of course being the Specialized Crux. Both have low stack, relatively standard reach, and not a super low BB, again coming from that cross background. The SuperX is decidedly shorter in terms of the top tube and the overall wheelbase compared to bikes like the Mondraker Arid and even the Cannondale Grail, which has a progressive long top tube and a pretty healthy wheelbase as well. In terms of gear clearance, you can run it 1x or 2x. The biggest gear for a 1x is a 54, and the biggest double chain set is a 50-34 that will fit on the Cannondale SuperX. Before we hear from Alison Jackson, let's bring in the gentleman from the Gravel Adventure Field Guide. So this video is supported by Gravel Adventure Field Guide, which in addition to being a handy, tangible, and digital resource is also two wonderful human beings, Juan de la Roca and Stephen Beneski. Thanks for coming in, guys.
Oh, thanks for having us, Ben. This is awesome.
So I've used these a lot, but for folks who don't know what a Gravel Adventure Field Guide is, please enlighten us.
Gravel Adventure Field Guide is an art-forward, tangible guidebook that has digital ride with GPS routes to inform people about new places to ride gravel.
And sometimes those new places can be old places. I'm born and raised in New Mexico and have been introduced to old places that are new to me through your books. For instance, I was just down at my parents' house, and there's routes that I've ridden the road parts of for years. I went to high school out there, but until I saw one of your new guidebooks and the routes therein, it just never occurred to me to ride gravel routes. And similarly, stopped in Raton on the way down, another upcoming guidebook, and I've driven up and down that thing I don't know how many times. So it's not just like places you've never been before, but it can be places where you've already been where you can get a new experience. You already have more than a dozen books out. What's new? What's coming up?
Well, we just released a couple books, Santa Fe County, as you just mentioned, the one that you were discussing as far as not knowing before. We also released a book in San Juan County. That one was our first one in the Four Corners region. A really cool area that I think, a lot of times we kind of forget that there's these places that have amazing landscape, and sometimes you just need a bike to kind of open your eyes up a little bit and get you to, think of a place a little bit differently. So Farmington, Aztec will be some towns that will surprise some folks out there in the Four Corners region. But then we also have some new stuff coming out too this year. Ely, Nevada, another sort of off the radar spot, but is also at the same time known for bikes. Mountain biking is pretty big there, but we'll be releasing our first gravel adventure field guide in the state of Nevada for Ely, White Pine County. Then we'll also be back in New Mexico, as you just mentioned, Raton, working in Colfax County, which is on the southern border with Los Animas County, which is where we started with Trinidad, Los Animas County Guidebook. And so,
The original.
yeah. So Colfax County will be coming out in the spring as well. And then we're heading off to the East Coast, State College, Pennsylvania, which is going to be another really great destination, project, opportunity. But in the meantime, too, we also just did a special project, Antigua, Guatemala, that'll be coming out here in the next about 30, 45 days.
Super cool.
It's our first international piece, yeah.
I think you guys do three things really well. Inspiration, information, and invitation, which are like the three critical parts to a good adventure. Like a lot of us want to go and ride in a new place, see some fun stuff. The world is enormous, but until we have those pieces, we're not going to go and do it, you know? So I think that's what these books do really well, is you can flip through and be like, oh, that would be cool, and I can see some specific photos to plant ideas in my head, and then there's the information part, like here's where you start, here's what the route is, you know, here's where you can get gas, here's where you can, you know, stay or at a hotel and get some drinks, and then here's the QR code to zap the route onto your computer. So it's not, parts of it are like, I don't want to say old-timey, but quaint, you know, like old school, nostalgic.
Nostalgic.
Yeah, it's a physical guide.
Yeah.
But you're not out there with a compass and a giant paper map navigating. Like you just zap the thing on your phone, you go to your bike computer, then you follow your bike computer.
Yeah.
Or if you want to throw your guidebook in your frame bag or in your frame or handlebar bag rather, you know, the idea is to, you know, have something that if you're in a place where the GPS goes out, which is a lot of places still even, and you have something kind of cross-reference. And
The analog map will get you home.
yeah.
Super cool.
Sometimes you just need an extra little frame of reference on how to
our analog maps
get
are
around
accurate.
something.
Well, thanks for the work, guys, and thanks for selfishly getting me out to explore new routes in old places, including where I grew up.
You're welcome. Yeah.
GravelAdventureFieldGuide.com. Okay, now let's hear from Alison Jackson down at the UAE, where unfortunately I learned that the Zencastr platform I use to record videos on when I do remote interviews does not work on tablets, which is what Alison had. So we recorded on Zoom and the quality kind of small, so we'll do the best that we can. I apologize for that. But as always, Alison is a wonderful person to listen to, so let's hear what she has to say about her experiences on the SuperX. Alison Jackson, great to see you down there in UAE. How are you?
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's a little warmer here than back home, that's for sure.
Yeah, rub it in, rub it in.
Yeah.
I just want to get your thoughts on the SuperX compared to all the other bikes you've ridden, particularly, you know, the bikes you've ridden at Paris-Roubaix. And obviously the gearing's different, the tire's different, but just how different did those bikes feel in terms of handling when racing?
Yeah, I mean we're riding the bikes on a bit different terrain, but I think also like going from a Cannondale frame to another Cannondale frame, the small differences you can tell. A gravel bike is going to be a little wider wheelbase, or I mean, you can roll over things or steer a little bit better, but the SuperX is a little bit closer to the feel of a road bike, which I really like. And as we get faster and faster on the gravel, some of these, like, I mean, the all integrated cabling and other things are going to be more important. But and also it's even with the wider tires and things makes the bike a little heavier, but the frame is quite light. So I got to ride the race on the SuperX for Gravel World in 24, and then a little bit over the off season. So I just like the handling is the handling is really good, I think, from and going from road bike to this bike is we're getting a little bit more of that kind of aero feel and aero position.
Yeah. How much time did you spend on the SuperX before Gravel Worlds? I remember seeing Larry Warbass at Unbound Gravel. It was his first gravel race. Of course, he's going to like just jump into 200 miles. Like, Larry, how much time have you spent on the bike? And he looked down at his bike computer and he's like, 3.5K.
Yeah, yeah.
His mechanic handed him like on the bike and like off he went. Um, which,
Yeah,
you know, speaks to how well professionals like yourself can adapt. But
yeah, I mean, if you're familiar, I think also if you're familiar with the bike brand and you also know your positioning, we can do a lot with measurements to make the framing work, and stem sizes and all that. And I use the same handlebar width in road racing as I do on the gravel, and also the
you
same
just transfer
handlebar
your
that
account
we
over
race.
road gravel, just identical.
Yeah, I put I raise the front end a little higher,
Mm,
and then keep it a little shorter just for managing some more of the kind of steep downhills that
mm,
you want to do on the gravel side.
mm.
But yeah, I had raced a couple of races on the older version, so not the Super X, and then the Super X I rode for the recon. So a couple of days of recon before Worlds, and then in that bike race.
Hmm. Which is rougher, Roubaix cobbles or gravel roads?
Roubaix cobbles for sure.
Right.
I think, I mean, a lot of times in gravel tracks, you can choose where you're gonna ride, but so you can like even out some of the like rougher stuff. But I mean, yeah, Roubaix also we're still not riding that wide of tires. Like we're riding 30s.
Yes.
We're on the gravel bike. I mean, 30s is a small tire now. So
Yes.
we'll ride like 42s usually, or 45s. So I mean, that alone will make such a difference.
Yes.
Um, and I think also like the Super X is built a little bit more, has pieces in the C post and whatever to allow for a bit more, like suspension, if we say so, a bit more comfort. Which also makes a difference in gravel racing when you're going so long. But yeah, Roubaix cobbles and the skinny tires and what we're trying to manage just to be really fast on the road sections. Yeah, that's a rough race.
No contest, right? Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
yeah.
and granted, like at Roubaix, you've got, 17 sectors of cobbles over 150-ish K, and there's still a lot of pavement, which is why you're on a relatively skinnier tire. But one thing that always frustrated me as a journalist when I was covering Roubaix was my inability to show visually how rough the cobbles are, because it just looks quaint. It looks just like nice little bumpy road. It's like, no, this is not going to disconnect your retinas from your eyeballs.
Yeah, now when we get those slow-mo cameras out and you just see like the arm jiggles or like the cheek jiggles the whole time when you're on it, then you're like, yeah, that's pretty rough.
Yeah, yeah. You obviously have a busy schedule racing World Tour road, starting tomorrow at the UAE Tour. Do you have any gravel in your future for 2025?
Yeah, we're maybe sorting that out with the team, what we want to do. I for me, like I love having some newness in the program, and I think also like the longer you're in the sport, you need to have a different stimulus, and whether that's like a different type of training or trying a few different pockets here or there. One, to like keep the mind fresh and
Mhm.
excited about what you're doing, but also like the gravel racing little bit that I did last year. I mean, even just manage the core and the managing your bike, that becoming more and more one with your bike, that's going to help you in any discipline that you move to after that.
Mhm.
But I really love the gravel community, to be honest. And for me right now, like I still have a lot of goals in World Tour and road racing.
Sure.
That is like the bread and butter of also what I love. And the
Sure.
gravel, I mean, I even, if I go to a gravel race, it's not just to kind of ride, because I still have this competitive nature that fun is still also trying really hard to win.
Sure.
But yeah, to have a few of those things in there, I think also just really helped last year, the motivation right through to the end, through to October. So if we can add a little bit of that in, if it fits with the other road racing goals, I think we'll do it.
Okay, good. Well, I hope to see you out there. Well, speaking of fitting things in, I know you've got a busy schedule, and I appreciate you fitting me in so I'll let you get back to your evening. But thank you very much, and best of luck to you at the UAE Tour and the rest of your season.
Thanks, Ben.
So there's a first look at the new Cannondale SuperX gravel race bike. I'll throw a leg over a test bike as soon as I am able. Coming up for me, I'm headed to the Valley of Tears in Texas and the Mid-South in Oklahoma. So you can look for video test reviews on bikes at each of those places. In the meantime, I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you subscribing. And whether you like a gravel race bike, a gravel adventure bike, or any kind of gravel bike, I hope you can get out there and enjoy the ride.